Disclaimer, this video is not mine. Oh, this video is mine. I mean, the book's not mine. By anime fanfiction. Yeah. Check out the profile. It is awesome. Link in the description below. And no copyright, please. I already got permission from him, as you can see. So, yeah. Enjoy. They're all gone. Levi sat at the edge of his bed in the dark. The candles flame on his desk, slowly dwindling to nothing more than a smolder. Moonlight now peeked at the white curtains of the still and quiet room. The only sound coming from the muffled crying of the corporal himself. His usual piercing gray eyes were dull and red, burning with the memories of the past. Almost his entire soul was dead. He slowly pulled his boots off and tossed them carelessly to the side of the room. He shrugged off his now blood-stained jacket and folded it neatly onto the bed. He stared down at his own hands, now trembling at the sight. I'm all bloody. He quickly stood up and wiped his hands on his clothing. Cringing at the sight of blood smearing onto his shirt, he cursed under his breath as he rushed into the hall and headed towards the showers. Oi! Corporal, what's the matter? Hanji asked as she walked towards him. Levi backed into a wall, shaking his head. Please, just leave me alone, he said in a cracked and brittle voice. Hanji merely raised an eyebrow at his reached a hand out to him. You okay? Levi choked back a sob as he looked down at his hands, biting his lower lip until it bled. I have blood all over me, he whispered. I have their blood. Hanji's eyes widened as she stared at him in confusion. She gently pulled her hand away. Levi looked up and glared at her, fresh tears rolling down his pale face. The hell are you staring at? He cried. Levi, she started as she looked down at him in sympathy. There's no blood. Chapter 2. There's no blood. Levi stared down at his open palms. The red that had plagued his mind now gone. His lip throbbed from the pain he had inflicted on himself, yet he paid no mind to it. He began, only to close his mouth and swallow back another choking sob as he shrank into the wall further. Levi, please, talk to me, Hanji said as she held her hand out again. What is it? He ignored her question, taking off down the hall in a haste and pushing past nameless faces. His head began to ache. I cannot read. Okay. Leading him to clutch it while stumbling forward slightly and keep running. Captain Levi! A cheery female voice rang out from behind, stopping him in his dead tracks. Petra. He turned around, dropping his hand to his side. In an instant, the redhead's usual warm smile was visible as she walked towards him. Her head bobbed with every step as she hummed softly. Captain, you seem in a bit of a rush, Petra said, her eyes gleaming in concern as she wrapped her cloak around herself tighter. She brushed off a strand of hair from her eyes, looking back at him with the same hopeful expression as always. I just finished setting tea for you in the office. I remember just how you like it. Thank you, Petra. I appreciate it, he replied, his voice in contrast to the tears that began to blur his vision. He panted slightly, looking around the rest of the hall to avoid her gaze. He couldn't bring himself to say haunting words, almost crawling at his, I think it's supposed to be, I cannot read. Clawing at his insides as he nodded slowly and managed a weak smile. You're dead, Petra. Gone. This is real. If you'll excuse me, I have some things I need to, Levi said, silently earning a small nod of curtsy from the redhead as he turned on his heel and began walking away again. As soon as he no longer felt he broke down, dropping to his knees in the middle of the hallway and holding his hands to his ears. He snapped his eyes shut, grimacing in pain, both physical and emotional, as he bit down on his swollen lip again. The horrible images of his dead comrades flashed through his head, one after another. until his face appeared again. Her gaze was focused upwards, blood staining her nose and mouth as she slumped against the tree at an awkward angle, both hands still at her sides, lifeless in themselves. But I saw her, not minutes before. She looked so happy, so alive. The corporal told himself, but he knew it was a lie. She was dead. His entire team was dead, and not another soul to tell him otherwise. Chapter 3. I think this is the chapter, if I'm correct. Yeah, it is. Okay. God, it hurt. Levi winced once again, feeling the hot water from the shower pour over the bruises and cuts he had endured from the last expedition. He ignored the insistent demands from the infirmary's head nurse earlier that evening, letting his stubborn attitude get the best of him once again when he refused her offers of an overnight examination. He leaned back against the shower wall, not bothering to continue his routine of only 3 minutes as he looked down at his ankle and grimaced, I think, with the pain severing at his reminder. He couldn't help but feel the I'm big words of the day's events. Jaeger wasn't capable of killing the female Titan, no matter how bad he wished the troubles of days past was. In the end, the ventures he endured were nothing. His ankle seemed to throb at his inner, leading him to curse loud as he grabbed a bar of soap from a nearby tray. He began to clean himself, though some difficulty as he brushed his dark hair back with one hand and closed his eyes. Despite his inner, his mind seemed to drift elsewhere as he rested against the shower wall, still letting the flow of water trail down his back as he let out a sigh of almost content. Captain Levi! An older man's voice from the sea of onlookers. Levi's eyes remained ahead as he continued walking, footsteps behind him as his heart began to sink. He knew the man quite well. The voice was older, with age and worry to the tone. He didn't need eyes. The same color he would stare into every night as he wished his former squad mate a peaceful sleep. Okay. He didn't want to turn around to see the eyes of Petra's father. The man rushed ahead of him, an apologetic smile upon his lips as he began to speak. My daughter is in your squad. I'm Petra's father, he said as he began to walk time with Levi. As if Levi didn't already know, Petra would often come to his office, tears in her eyes as she expressed the worry she had for her family's well-being, explaining how her father was too old to do manual work and how her role in the survey corps provided them with money. Before she sees me, I want to talk to you. The man Levi returned a small sign of vague interest. She sent me this letter. She mentioned that you respected her abilities enough to let her join your squad. That she was going to devote herself to you. At the word devote, Levi paused in his steps, not showing his moment of hesitation before he kept walking. Well, I guess she's too starry-eyed to consider how her father feels. The man chuckled at his tone became somewhat playful. Well, as her father, I think it is still too early. It is too early for her to get married. She's still too young, so young, with much experience. Marriage. At the word, Levi's expression grew cold, his pace quickening as he walked past the man and clenched a fist to bite back his words. He had thought about marriage. He rolled over the subject many times with Petra during their night discussions. She wanted it. Believed she knew that she had been searching for in a man what she had been searching for in a man, and ultimately decided that it was Levi who she had fallen for. In all honesty, Levi couldn't say her. Even at an early age, he had detached himself from others, refusing to create bonds in fear that they would eventually break. The vast terrain behind the walls. Death was a certainty in his line of expertise. It was never a matter of if, but when. He had known about Petra's feeling for him, and he took the notion with nothing more than a nod of understanding. He would never let himself get close to someone, he had told himself many times before. Yet here he was in the midst of his despair at the fall of his loyal comrades. He had let himself get too close, and now as he continued his walk of shameful regret through the crowd of people among the closing gates, he never felt more alone.